It's likely that most of you have heard the results of a Library of Congress Book of the Month Club survey that said the most influential book in readers' lives, readers were asked, they said the Bible, number one answer, and number two was Atlas Shrugged. When I heard that statistic, I said, you know what? The people who put the Bible as the most influential book in their lives don't run in the same circles as the people who put Atlas Shrugged down as the most influential book in their lives. And I think that's because these two worldviews, they just don't engage. They don't go to where each other are. You know, that's really the first step, is engaging. Can't do anything else unless you're engaging. In my case, I had to engage. Engagement was thrust upon me. I had no choice because I had two fathers, two men who shaped my life. And one is an atheist, John Aguilera, extraordinary man, businessman, entrepreneur, a passionate follower of Ayn Rand. The other is my biological father, who is a farmer, a PhD professor, and a devout Christian. Now, I wanted very much to win their approval, to just understand these men. They were so important in my life, and I really wasn't a whole person. Didn't feel like a whole person because I had these two very influential forces in my life that I couldn't bring together. I had to sort of live a double life, but I wasn't satisfied with that because of all the pain that causes. And yet these two men couldn't be more different. You know, John he won the U.S. Poker Championship in 2004 on ESPN. He owns racehorses, and he drives a Mercedes. Dad worked on the assembly line at General Motors. He taught business statistics for W. Edwards Deming, and he drives a candy apple red pickup truck. And I just, these two men are just very different, and they spoke different messages into my life. And I said I had to engage. Really, it was more of a compulsion. It was more like, I'm not willing to let this go. Most teens, which is the time that I sort of really began asking questions, most teens might be indifferent to their parents' worldviews. They might just sort of side with one versus the other. I felt this compulsion to bring them together. Little side note, they used to be best friends before the divorce. So there were conversations that were happening, but Dad didn't come to Christianity until later in life. So I saw some changes in his life that confronted very differently the things that I'd learned from age 11 when I began living with John, my stepfather. So here I am asking, what is driving this compulsion? And I think it was divorce. My dad moved away from New Jersey to Missouri, 1,000 miles away. When I was 16, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, went through radiation therapy for 9 months, hair fell out, lost weight, and I'm sort of searching for meaning. So that's the context. And asking questions of objectivism that'll help me thrive and survive and continue to press on. Asking questions of Christianity for the same purpose. Let me read you this out of page 114 in The Soul of Atlas. There's nothing quite like a life-threatening disease following on the heels of an identity-threatening family crisis to dislodge a torrent of questions about life's meaning. Let those events blow into the storm of adolescence, and well, that's what they call the perfect storm. What prepared me for that tempest, and what I'm earnestly grateful for, was my father's genuine commitment to the integrity of meaning in their lives. Plenty of people don't have that. Plenty of people go about from day to day, mindlessly living, quote unquote, without wondering, as Augustine wrote, with no consideration of meaning. But as my discussions with my fathers evidenced richly, we need to know what gives us meaning. We need to know to live well. And what characterized my engagement with these two men, how did I go about? What were the general principles of engagement? Well, I think, and for me, these came naturally or easier. The first thing that we need to do, and that I did, is I need to know who it is that I need to engage with. It was easy for me because they were my fathers, but when we look at the different groups that have the same principles or are at least principled, we can say, who are they, and let's engage with them. And I'll talk about how that plays out in a little bit. And the other thing is where do they live? Figuratively speaking, I think, as it applies to the general question, but I think for me, it's, I needed to go to where my fathers were. For John, my stepfather was at the kitchen table. We had lecture series 101 and 102 and 103, and it got to the 400 series. And we talked about philosophy and ethics and politics and business and economics, and Ayn Rand held court. And while most families, I say this all the time, while most families worship in church or synagogue, our family worshipped in the pages of Atlas Shrugged. That was about as close to worship as we came. And John preached eloquently about everything from the depths of altruism's evil to the zenith of reason and rationality, and I listened. I took it in. With Dad, almost all of our interaction was during the relentlessly long days of farm work. I liked the farm. I despised the hard work and the lack of indoor plumbing. And you know what? I wanted to be near Dad. And I wanted to be near John. At times, some of those things got really tedious, either the farm work or the lecture series, but I wanted to be near these men. I don't even think my goal was clear to me at the time, but in retrospect, I think I wanted to be, as I said, a whole person. I just wanted to make sense of these two important men in my life because I knew one wouldn't be able to figure out what I was doing or who I was without making sense of who they were. And for that, I needed their presence. I needed understanding. And I'd like to suggest that that's precisely what compelled me to engage and seek understanding about my father's philosophies is what currently compels us as conservatives, libertarians, to engage and understand one another better, and that is crisis. I think that's where we are. I believe that we face a menacing degree of government intrusiveness and control that's only going to get worse, and that, if nothing else, should drive us to create unity, even amidst the profound differences between us.